Yeah, so there'll be.
Everybody coming closer. Can't hear.
We're on Tonga at a hospital land, and acknowledging that we're on our Tonga hospital land today, and I was given a song welcoming the ancestor song from Rebecca Lopez, who's a Hashman. She'll be able to sing for minutes. I also sing it at Standing Rock. This song has better if you just speak up. This song has been used to acknowledge the Tonga people. And so it has 4 rounds. That's where the ancestors to come in and welcome ceremony, so that we're proceeding to all things whatever. Solidarity, just say that one insight I had at Standing Rock was there from fighting for water was the realization that it was a global community, and an example that our best example of what we can achieve when we come together from whatever walks of life, whatever base school. It's the best example that we can accomplish. What's that?
Mm-hmm.
I just pray for that. I think peace is like a temporary state. I don't know that we can have world peace as a permanent status, because peace means something different to everybody. Okay. For example, last year the George Floyd trial, but where there's people who victimized those in those black men, what was their idea of peace? Their idea of peace was a world without black people. So how can we have world peace when we have people like that one? You know, some people's idea of peace is bombing other countries into oblivion, killing innocent civilians for industry. So that's why I don't really think that would be such a big world peace for everybody. But, you know, I believe this is what people to accomplish. What should be real peace. So thanks for being here. so much, Natasha. We're so pleased to have you here representing the Indigenous people that once inhabited this land. Next, I'm going to ask for a moment of silence. This is traditional on Armistice Day. It's a part of the Veterans for Peace, and that will be followed with some bells. So everybody bow their heads for a moment. Sorry. Thank you. I'd like to introduce Tracy Ballard, who is going to be Thank you so much, Tracy. Tracy Ballard is from the First Congregational Church of Longmont. Next, I'd like to invite up Dale, who is going to give us an explanation of bells. Dale? Where's Dale?
Oh, Dale? Dale!
Early with the bells. Well, we're giving it at 11. Oh, perfect. That's great content.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, that's fine. I know. Okay.
You got 6 minutes, Dale.
I don't think about. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? If I'm mic, it's right in my mouth. That's good. Okay. This kind of started last year in my front yard because this started last year in my front yard when, as a member of the Long Beach Area Peace Network. How many are here part of the Long Beach Area Peace Network? I hold a Veterans for Peace material out of St. Louis that has this thing, Reclaim Armistice Day. So we did a little baby member in a couple of other backyards. Summer's front yard, my front yard, Pat's front yard. I'm sorry. But we kind of made it larger this year. Trying to incorporate not only the peace community, but also the interfaith community. I can talk loud, so I will. So thank you all for being here. The real origin of this is with the Veterans for Peace. The word armistice doesn't mean anything except from 2 Latin roots meaning cessation of physical fighting. When World War I ended, the war to end all wars, are you with me? They stopped fighting, and that was the original Armistice Day. A year later, in 1919, the churches of Europe rang their bells at 11 a.m. on the 11th day of the 11th month to celebrate the end of what was then called the Great War. Remember, they didn't know about World War II yet. So that's where this Armistice Day idea comes from. But I want to give a footnote to that. We honor all veterans. This is Veterans Day. We're not trying to, let's give the veterans a hand. Thank you for your service. And some of the veterans, especially in Veterans for Peace, have come back from conflicts and they're going, we don't think we want to do that again. It's not a good idea. It's too boring. It's too horrible. So at the very least, let's reclaim the armistice portion of Veterans Day. You understand what I'm saying? We're not trying to replace it with the idea of armistice, but we're trying to make sure we bring the original meaning back. This day, November 11th, was Armistice Day until, anybody know when? 1954, when the Eisenhower administration changed it to Veterans Day to honor all the veterans of all the wars, not just World War I. So thank you all for being here. That's where we're coming from, and we're just so happy you're all here for a day of peace and learning about armistice. And by the way, when you get to the other end, we have the words to "Let There Be Peace on Earth," a wonderful old 50s song that was composed for the International Peace Choir right here in Long Beach, one of our children's choirs. I'll give you the words to that when you get to the other end. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Thank you, Gail, very much. Is it better to hear me like this, or do you want me to just talk like this?
Do both.
Okay. Both?
Why not do both?
Do both. Okay. So thank you again all for being here. I would like to introduce the beginning of a very important ceremony that happens all over the world, except not so much here. So let this be the beginning of that. Today, for our ceremony that starts in about 2 minutes, maybe one, I want to call up Anna, is she here? To bring the flowers to the cannon before we ring the 11 bells. This is a very symbolic, you have the flowers, you know where they are?
Remember, this is unrehearsed.
Okay, sorry. And so we're going to ring the 11 bells, and I would like to introduce our bell ringers for today. Musa, you want to come on up? And Tracy from the First Congregational Church. If you haven't seen their bell choir before, you're missing something. And at the count, we got 1 minute, right? You want to give us a signal? Yes, 11.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Susan Brooks. I want to thank you for joining us. I'm the president of the South Coast Interfaith Council and the Social Justice Chair at Temple Bethel in San Pedro. Although I am serving in an official capacity on behalf of SCIC, I am also the mother-in-law of a veteran. For me, war is very personal. My son-in-law was in the Army Reserve and served a one-year tour of duty in the Middle East. He left his wife and 2 small children home while he went in the name of serving this country. We texted each other while he was gone. He told me things he couldn't tell my daughter because he didn't want to put the stress on her. He told me about the things he couldn't unsee. He told me about the way they were taught to dehumanize the locals because there's no way of knowing who was a threat and who wasn't. He was taught that the only way to protect himself was to do this. Thankfully, he never saw combat, but he came back with PTSD and will never be quite the same. His service wasn't part of a traditional war. It was part of the war on terror. This war caused nearly 1 million deaths and $8 trillion. I often think about how that money could have been used to provide infrastructure and peaceful intervention in war-torn countries. What mental health services and housing could have been provided to the American veterans of other wars, including the over 500,000 veterans that live on our streets today. There is another war that's been raging for 20 years that most Americans don't know about. I know this war because of 3 young people from there that I have mentored, as well as from friends that are there performing Herculean tasks to bring peace to their country. That country is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Congo is the richest country in the world in terms of our natural resources. It's where we get our tin, tungsten, tantalum that is in every one of these cameras, cell phones, the cars going by. Yet it is also the poorest country in the world as far as the resources for their people. Rebel groups, proxies, and at times Congo's own military have perpetrated war crimes on the eastern part of the country where most of the mineral resources are found. The area of the country is often referred to as the rape capital of the world. What better way to terrorize villages than raping the women from babies to grandmothers, thereby tearing apart the very fabric of society. It is where Dr. Denis Mukwege, the 2018 Nobel Peace Prize winner, was recognized for his efforts to end rape, the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war and armed conflict. That's where he's from, and that's where he's worked tirelessly as an OBGYN to repair the bodies and souls of tens of thousands of women and babies. The U.S. has long had a stake in Congo. Its claim on Congolese uranium was used to manufacture the atomic bombs that were dropped in Japan in World War II. The CIA supported Congo's Mobutu and aided the plans to assassinate the next leader, Lumumba, all in the name of U.S. interests. In no way has any of this been there to improve the life of the residents. In recent years, the U.S. has sent in special forces to aid the Congolese military, but not to the betterment of humanity yet. I call the young people I mentored my sons and my daughter. My Congolese daughter lost her father while in her mother's womb. He tried to rescue his pregnant wife from rebel soldiers who were raping her. Her mother died when she was only 9 years old, leaving her an orphan. She never knew her parents' names. She has no pictures, and she does not even know her own last name. U.S. intervention has not changed the conditions in Congo. So you see, war is very personal for me, as it is to almost every one of you gathered here today. A little over 100 years ago, a ceasefire was signed that signaled the end of World War I. The Great War, it was called. And Armistice Day was the way the world marked this day of peace as a call for the end of all wars. We know that call was not heeded. The world seems to be in a perpetual state of war. Every major world religion includes a doctrine of peace, of welcoming the stranger, of recognizing every person, every human possessing a divine spirit. Yet we continue to have wars all over the world, sometimes even in the name of religion. We live in a country where the military budget is more than the next highest 11 countries combined. Our military budget is $1.1 trillion a year. That amounts to more than 10% of all federal spending and nearly half of all discretionary spending. Not only that, but excess military equipment has been distributed to police forces across the country where it is used to terrorize U.S. citizens. Without a mandatory draft, recruitment efforts after 9/11 allowed individuals in the military that normally would have been screened out as unfit to serve because of their political beliefs or ideologies. Some of those people are now back in our communities, engaging in white nationalist activities with their military training. The military is also the largest institutional source of greenhouse gases as we stand here in November when it's over 80 degrees. It's not too late to reverse the effects of over-militarization, but it will take all of us to make those changes. Today, we reclaim Armistice Day, and tomorrow we work to call on our elected officials to reprioritize the federal budget and support policies that will reverse these harmful effects of war. Next, I'd like to introduce Antonio Palacios of Veterans for Peace.
Oh, you know me.
Do it, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining here to reclaim Armistice Day. My name is Antonio Palacios. I'm a member of Veterans for Peace. And we heard a very great explanation of Armistice Day from Dale. Thank you very much for that. It went from a day of warning, of lest we forget these horrors, and had the meaning stripped, so what's left is about honoring sacrifice. But whose sacrifice and for what? So it's important to reclaim Armistice Day and build movements dedicated to the cause of peace. My story's a pretty common cliche, right? I was a smart, hardworking, ambitious brown kid from La Puente, California. I was destined to get to a good school, but my family had no money. And what every poor kid knows, if you serve, the government's going to pay for your college. So I took the ASVAB exam. I scored well. I signed a contract. I went to boot camp. And 5 weeks later, 9/11 happened. The days following the attacks are memorable for everyone. My boot camp division was tense and a quietly emotional place. I remember when one recruit from my division fell to his knees crying when a dental officer called his name for an appointment. He thought for sure he was being sent straight to the front lines because of his low ASVAB score. His red face, full of tears, is burned into my memory. He was 17. He had never been to a dentist. He told me he realized that day how young he really was. I eventually arrived at my ship and we deployed to the Persian Gulf as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. Life on board the ship was exactly as you'd expect on a naval vessel. Uniforms, regimented schedules, tight spaces, no privacy, ship meals, general quarters drills, lots of time staring out into the open ocean. In 6 months that we spent in the hostile fire zone, our ship only saw one day of external danger. While passing through the Strait of Hormuz, that March, our slow, round transport ship needed to pass a small, fast, heavily gunned Iranian frigate patrolling access to the Persian Gulf. The captain sent us to general quarters, and we spent 4 hours preparing for a potentially deadly firefight. When those 4 hours were over, like a zombie, I walked to my bed and I slept until the next morning. When I woke up, I could tell something had changed in my brain chemistry. I was a different person that morning than the person who woke up the morning before. There were internal dangers as well. My ship had a new command master chief, the highest ranking enlisted person on the ship. He had taken a liking to me. I even overheard him pointing at me and saying, "That is the future of the Navy." That was just the beginning of a 12-month period of grooming that would eventually lead to public, aggressive, and hostile acts of sexual harassment with quid pro quo elements. I was 22. I was taking on the biggest challenge of my life at that point, navigating life in wartime while trying to escape threats of blackmail in a homophobic system he knew he could use against me. It was tough. It was traumatizing. And it took everything I had not to lose all the work I put into earning my college education. He was allowed to retire, and I received an early discharge under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, having served 3 years and 1 day. Luckily, just enough time to earn the GI Bill. When some well-intended person on Veterans Day thanks me for my service, I don't know how to accept it. I don't know how to hear those words and feel normal. I don't know how to casually reply with a thank you without feeling something stick to me that I don't want to feel. I think of my supervisor, PN1. He grew up in a rough neighborhood around Atlanta. He told stories of being harassed by police at 12 years old. By 17, a judge told him he had a choice. You could go to prison or you can serve. My office mate, another PN3, he from Nigeria, was promised he could stay in the country if he served. You may be aware, but the US has not kept all those promises. A young yeoman in my division from Wisconsin Rust Belt Sound couldn't find a job, so he chose to serve. An engineering second-class petty officer on board my ship came to my personnel office to file documents that his mother was finally his legal dependent. He had served for 5 years, and he joined because his mother needed health care for her chronic illness, and that was 5 years later. None of this is voluntarism. This is extraction. These are failed systems of justice, healthcare, housing, education, and economics, and poor people are being taken advantage of. How can a person accept a thank you for playing a role in that? During the year leading up to my discharge, I watched the Bush administration push obvious lies that led to the invasion of Iraq. I remember being out to sea and writing home to my family asking why nobody was stopping it. I was angry with the Bush administration, those bastards. I was angry with Congress that was going along with it and providing funding. I was angry with the people that I saw as the real adults, not 20-year-olds, the adults out there. Why aren't they stopping this? I don't know how to accept the fact that 1 million Iraqis are dead now over those lies. I don't know how to accept thank you for your service in relation to that. Torture, Guantanamo, the Patriot Act, the authorization for use of military force that continues to wage a war on terror we do not see on television, for the whistleblowers who were the only people to pay any consequences for any of this. How do you accept a thank you for your service? Whose sacrifice are we remembering? What was that sacrifice for? So we assemble here today. We take the opportunity to reclaim Armistice Day. We join each other as voices for peace, and we reject the glorification of domination and war. We know that war over oil isn't over. We know wars over lithium and water have been promised to us very soon. We know the Pentagon produces as much climate-changing pollution as 140 countries combined. Rather than direct these trillions of dollars in resources to building a clean energy system, we prepare to dominate the devastated planet it leaves behind. We have to reclaim Armistice Day. We have to build movements for peace and justice every chance we get. So I'm so grateful to be here. I'm so grateful for all of you who've shown up here, and I thank you very much. And I'd like to invite all of you now to march with us. And I'd like to thank the volunteers from Veterans for Peace who are going to be directing us on the march. And they will be providing masks for anyone who doesn't have them. So thank you. My name is Antonio Palacios.
Okay, just some last minute directions for anybody that's still wondering. Put the mic away. Okay, it's an echo. So there are lots of kites here. We're going to be walking from here to the Lone Sailor. It's less than a mile. So please grab a kite if you would, or help with the Veterans for Peace sign. And Anna, wave your hand. The Long Beach Area Peace Network, one of our sponsors, we thank all our sponsors, is updating the Lavapan list. And they're working on a poetry event. And so please sign up if you would like to get a very low traffic amount of emails about the things that the Long Beach Area Peace Network is doing. So look for the vets, make sure you have a mask, and we'll see you at the Lone Sailor. With a vet